Okay, first off, Nadine, quick question. Writer, director, producer, lead. It's rarely done in cinema. How, in layman's terms, how hard is that? And what is the key to actually mastering all facets of the production? Because I'm sure your head was swimming for quite a while.
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and honestly, I'm not really sure how I did it other than pure insanity. No. Yeah, it was just knowing when I had to take each hat off and put the other one on and being able to juggle doing that. I would also say that only through the collaboration and trust of my team and knowing I was very specific and very um yeah, I was very specific about what I wanted in my team and in my people. And so going through that interview process, it was very important to me that we just clicked, that there was that chemistry, that there was that understanding of the subject matter, of the mission, of, the um the stressful journey we were going to be on. It's like you never have enough money, you never have enough days. Filmmaking is almost always like us being so ambitious and doing everything we can to like get it all done. So yeah, it was through having an amazing team around me that I trusted and could take off this hat and now know that they have that, and that now I have to put this hat on and I have to work with my actors this way, or and be like, okay, now the acting like cut, we're out of that. Okay, now here comes the swarm of questions, and just juggling through it all. And honestly, I there's still days where I'm not really sure how we did it all, other than or how I did it all and managed all of those things, other than one foot in front of the other, like literally one day at a time, one breath at a time, just like, what is the task at hand? And how do I make sure that we're executing each task? A juggling game, pretty much.
They say creatively, when you're a writer or an artist, the best way to start is to start from the personal, to tell your own story. So number one, that's a big challenge for anyone to be very honest with themselves. But when you have a subject matter like suicide, where pretty much it's so hard to talk about, I'm 50, I can barely even approach the subject. So how were you able to clear those two hurdles to actually make your film? Because it just takes a lot of stones to actually achieve one and then jump over two as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just was determined. I heard from a lot of people that no one wanted to talk about suicide. No one wants to talk about mental health. And I strongly disagreed. And I was like, well, I do. So I'm just not going to stop. And I ended up having to make it a smaller indie way because there were certain things I was not willing to budge on, which was like my ending and my mission and the whole message for the film. And by the time you finish the film, you really understand what I'm trying to do. And so yeah, I basically had to do it my own way to get it made, and to be able to have the voice that I wanted to have and the message that I wanted to have. And it definitely wasn't easy, but I guess I love taking on really really challenging challenges. And I believe that if I didn't do it and I didn't go head on at this subject matter, other people would probably have the same journey as me, and someone has to do it first, and someone has to be brave enough to be like, hey, this is what I want to talk about, and we need to make it more regular to talk about it, because the numbers aren't going down, they're just drastically going up. So I every day that it became more challenging, I tried to keep it about the people I wanted to help, and constantly would be like, okay, this door's in your face and this door's in your face, but somewhere out there, someone is waiting to see this film and needs to see this film. So it's your job to make it happen. And so I did. But yeah, it was definitely challenging.
Yeah, all of your scenes with your ensemble, even the smallest details with casting Dale Dickey in a small role. I mean, you could have cast anyone in that role, but you really wanted to make that role shine. Can you just talk about your ensemble so locked in? I love the scenes with you and Shiloh. It's just really ambitious, just two people trying to get to know each other within this fabric, and then without giving too much away, just going toe to toe with Emily in that sequence. I mean, Can you just talk about your personal growth in this whole thing with these? They seem like your friends, with the way it's presented. So, yeah.
Oh, well, that's so thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, they are my friends now. I love these human beings so immensely. And I wrote uh, that role for Dale. Like, I don't think I ever really knew if Dale would take that role, because it's smaller and she's Dale Dickey and I love her. I've loved her in so many things that I've seen her. And I mean, Winter's Bone, like, will stick with me forever. And so, but she knew what I was trying to do. She read the script and saw my heart and was like, I get it. I want to be a part of it. And that was kind of how it went with every member of my cast is, I think that there was probably a lot of questions about having such a dark film and subject matter and like the hurdles we were going to cross and all of those things. But by the time we sat down, it was just kind of like, I keep expressing is when it was so effortless in the way that our conversations happened and it was so deep and everyone was so open and would tell me such intimate details of their life, which, only made me tell more intimate details of my life. And I guess we just got to know each other in such a close, fast way. And we all went on this ride together. And there was just such an incredible trust from every member of my cast. And I mean, yeah, my personal growth, it was like a masterclass working with all of these human beings, and also to be directing them and then be able to direct them opposite of them. So like sometimes when I didn't know the right words, I was just like, let's just go again right now, because I knew that if I changed how I was presenting something or how I was towards them, maybe I could change how it was coming across. And so it was just such this cool experiment of openness and trust and give and take. And I mean, I just feel so lucky, honestly, for the entire process and how it all went down and the trust. I mean, everyone on this film had a tie to the subject matter. So that also helps because everyone really cared about what we were doing, and every member of my cast and crew poured themselves into this film, like hours and hours. I mean, we went overtime. It was just such an ambitious script for the period for what we had and how many days we had. And there was not a single complaint from anyone on my team, no matter how tired we were. And everyone just gave their all. And I think that that's what you can feel. It's everyone's like heart. There's a little bit of all of our hearts in every single scene.
And then on another step, it's the fact with the release of Continue, its support in the film festivals and whatnot. Can you speak to the level of just the idea of dialogue you're going to get from people who watch your film and sharing stories with relative strangers who probably by the end of a conversation don't become strangers anymore? What has that dynamic already been like for you as a filmmaker and more importantly, just as a person, just connecting with so many people who've seen your movie?
Well, that's what was like, I mean, that's all my only goal was to make a film that those who suffer, or those who are the loved ones of someone who suffer, or, something that they could really relate to, that they could really open their eyes and see depression and suicidal ideation and all of these things in a really real way. And not that there's something wrong with someone, but that they're struggling. And sometimes all you need is to be seen or to have that support. And through being brave enough to kind of tell my story, there's been nothing but a flood of messages and people who have told me their stories too. And I guess just through every time I'm presented with this opportunity, I realize more and more how ununique I am in these struggles and how many people there are out there with these same battles. And I just feel honored that people share their story with me because they saw mine. And that's all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to start a conversation. I wanted to make a movie that people talked about long after they left the theater, whether they hated it or loved it, whether they're pissed at me for how I wrote, like how it all goes down or not. I wanted to know that they'd talk about it, that they'd think about it, that something would stick. And I tried to put a little something for everybody in there. And whether or not I succeeded in that, like, I guess time will only tell and who connects and who doesn't. But at the end of the day, I did everything I could, and the rest is up to the movie gods, I guess.
I'm just wondering now, after you've done this film, what's your next chapter? Because it is such an ambitious undertaking that you went. I'm just curious to see where you think the road's going to take you next.
Luckily, I kind of, well, you can never know where you're going on this in this industry. You can think you have it all figured out, but as of this exact moment, I have my next two films shooting this year. I leave at the end of April, if all the movie gods support it, to start shooting in June for my next film. And once again, all films, I mean, all of my films are always going to be really deep, poignant films that are always trying to say something and communicate something. And, you know, I have these new projects that I'm really trying to do, continue making films like Continue that need to be seen, that talk about things that maybe not everyone's talking about. You know, my entire mission has always been to give a voice to people who, you know, maybe don't have one, or that not enough people can hear or listen to. And so, yeah, my next goals is to make these next films as poignant as I possibly can, and to continue to help people, and to let my journey and my trauma that I've been through in my life. I've had a hard life, and to let that struggle I've already been through hopefully make it to where less people have to go through it. Maybe they can learn some things from my films, or have their eyes opened in a different way, or if anything, they've already gone through it, and let them just feel for a moment not alone, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my goal. Continue to make movies that help people and mean something.
Final couple questions. There's a sequence where you're in, your character in Shiloh, that you're in his, I think, domicile apartment, and you actually correct one of the, I think, drawings on the wall that he has. And I was thinking, wow, you're actually correcting a vision. And I'm wondering, is your first instinct with where it's music, it's producing, it's acting, is directing your first instinct when where you see the vision and you're saying, okay, well, I think it kind of should be this way. Is that your first instinct as a creator, just from the director's standpoint, or are you more of from the acting and music standpoint? Just wondering where that heart is.
It's definitely directing. Even when I'm writing, I don't, all my scripts now are director scripts. I have shots in them. I am explaining full sequencing and how I plan to do it. So it has always been, since I was a little girl, visuals. I see things in pictures, and so I go through that entire picture and that entire sequence, and I just, the way that my brain works and how I see it, and then I write that and I put that in the vision. So kind of when you read my scripts, you're kind of getting an idea of exactly some of the craziness we're going to go on, and then the rest kind of unfolds. But yeah, it's almost always from directing. Even through my writing, it's because I already see it this specific way. And I have a mission that I'm trying to communicate. And so I always try and remember that, and what the entire message of the film is. But yeah, it's funny. I always thought it was acting. I thought since I was a little girl, it was acting. And only through becoming a director and actually walking into this thing that I love and I will never not do now. I think that if I have anything, directing's probably going to be where I hope the rest of my life goes, because I love directing. But I always thought it was acting, and that I was seeing these roles because I wanted to play him and stuff. And it wasn't. I was telling whole stories and creating all of this stuff in my head visually. And I didn't really realize that as a kid until now.
Final question is, for my movie podcast, I ask actors and filmmakers to name one of their all-time favorite movies, and what is it about this specific movie that still resonates with you today?
Oh man, that's so hard, because film is like literally my life, and all of these films have meant so much to me, and I'm like obsessed with David Fincher and so many of their work. But I honestly think Requiem for a Dream and Girl Interrupted, it's a really close tie, but I'd say Requiem for a Dream is one of the films that stuck with me the most, because it was an experience. It was also something you had never really seen before. It was undeniable style and creativity, and just like they invented an entirely new way to edit, and what drug use looked like, through how they cut it, and just everything about it, the performances, how raw and dark, and he didn't pull punches, and it made you feel. I mean, half the films that I watch, like, that are my favorite films, are films that messed me up for like a week or two, like literally. I remember the first time I watched Cafe de Flore by Jean-Marc Vallée, or, Requiem for a Dream, or Seven. Like, there's just so many of them that I'm like, God, they're dark, but they stick with you, and you think about them, and they make you consider things in life that you maybe never considered before, or you could identify with, And so, yeah, I would say Requiem for a Dream, it's still one of those ones I go back and watch. And every time I notice something new too. I think that is, there's just certain directors that, like, you can watch their films a million times and you're still discovering new things.
Nadine, thank you so much for your time. Just congratulations on Continue. Really enjoyed it, and I selfishly am so excited. I want time to speed up, so because I want to watch more of your films. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
You too.